everybody. Welcome back to the Dear Future Pioneers podcast. My name is Carissa Munoz, and I'm going to be your host. Sidebar, did not introduce myself last time for the last episode. So if you're new here, that's who I am. And if you were really confused last time, so sorry about that. Today, we have a great episode for you guys about student government with two of our senior student government members, Alejandro and Daisy. So thank you guys for being with me today.
Of course.
Thank you.
So before we get started, I'm going to let them introduce yourselves. So if you guys want to let the people know who you are, and then we can get started.
Sure, Daisy, you go first.
So my name is Daisy Tuquinagui. I am the Secretary for Student Government. I've been the Secretary for about 4 years now. Love student government. Probably one of the first organizations that I joined here at Sacred Heart. And I'm from New York, so not too far from Connecticut.
My name's Alejandro Ramos. I'm the Student Government Executive President, and I've been here at Sacred Heart for the past 2 years as I transferred in, and I've been in this role for the past year. Previous to being the Student Government President, I was a senator on the junior class board.
Amazing. Thank you, guys.
And I'm from New Jersey.
Yeah, we live in New Jersey, Slay. I'm also from New Jersey. Anyways,
Sorry,
so
you odd one out.
It's okay. We're in that tri-state area. It's all good. It's all good.
One big happy family.
Oh, yeah. You know. So before we get started, you guys know the drill. I do a little bit of information that Sacred Heart's website provides on the Student Life Organization, just so you guys can get a brief overview, and then we can get a little more personal overview with our guests. So on Sacred Heart's website, it defines the student government as the group that serves as the representative voice of the Sacred Heart student body to the faculty and administration, and students can become involved through their class boards, various organizations, and other committees. So student government is like a rather large kind of grouping on campus that allows students to get involved more within, would you say kind of like the school outside of other organizations that are within their own student body?
I would say so.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I've never done a government kind of board group within either high school or in college. So I'm not sure, you can fact check me on this, but it's kind of maybe a step up from what high school kind of student government looks like.
Well, it's like high school student council on like steroids, severe steroids.
Okay.
I agree 100%. It's more responsibility.
A lot more, yeah. Well, because I was also student government, student council president in high school.
Okay.
I came into this and I said, this is going to be like a walk in the park. And I came in and I'm like, whoa.
It's a lot more work. So.
Yeah.
There's a lot more you get to do.
Yes.
So that's super exciting.
Yes.
So if you are already in a student council position in high school, or you're looking to get involved and make a difference on campus, this might be the organization for you. So stick with us. We'll give you a little bit more information on it. So we'll start off kind of with the basics. So what would you say that student government's main role on campus is? Do you think would you have defined it more kind of like how Sacred Heart would, or would you add anything that you think that they kind of missed?
For me personally, I would have added just that this year especially, we've just been going through some changes in student government, some positive changes, definitely. I think we're advocating more for voices on campus, and we're kind of like going into new issues that we haven't done before, or that maybe student government, might have not taken on before in the years past. But I think definitely we're a stronger group now. We're here to listen to everybody. We definitely want to make changes, and we want to be here for everybody in every way possible.
Well, if I could sum up what the website says and what Daisy said in a quick little sentence, it would be the persistent voice of the student body. I think that our organization has so much potential to, and it does it very well now, but to advocate for students. And we've moved, like Daisy just mentioned, we had a big constitutional convention last year, which Daisy and I were fortunate enough to be a part of. And everything was overhauled. It's like this year, it's like a brand new organization, different constitution, different bylaws, positions are different, everything basically is different, except that you have a president and you have a few different boards. So I would say that that makes sense and it works well, but we've become more of an advocacy body versus a programming board, which I think should be the real purpose of a student government.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Because you guys are kind of like the lifeline between the student body and then like faculty. Because, faculty can guess as much as they want from like, interacting with students within their classes or if they're advisors for anything. But I feel like students going to students, like you see that with like teams too, like for, instead of players going to like the coach, if there's like an issue, they'll go to the captain. So that's a little analogy. Like you guys are like the captains of the student body.
There you go.
There you go.
Perfect.
You can bring that up at your next meeting. Hey guys, guess what we were just described as in a podcast later, and you can plug the podcast if you wanted to.
Let's do it.
Like, we just got a title upgrade. We're now captains.
Yeah. It makes sense to me. All right. So you guys were also talking about how you guys just went through a whole new change. If this rolls into this next, topic, if you want to talk about what the differences are. But right now, what would you say the structure of student government looks like, and what positions are available? If you want to give a run through of what positions look like that you can think of off the top of your head.
Sure. Well, we have the waste, and I wish I had a giant board behind me to do a drawing.
Just like a tree diagram.
Just a tree. So at the top you have, I would say 3 positions, which are considered, or which I consider, the executive execs, which are myself, Megan, who's our vice president, and Daisy. And then from there, you have sort of a breakdown directly down from Megan and myself, the directors. So all the directors, which used to be called vice presidents?
They used to be vice presidents, yes.
So when we have the delineation from vice presidents to now directors, each director has their own set of responsibilities. So you have the director of public relations, student relations, clubs and organizations, community and inclusion, and the comptroller, which is the finance board. Okay. So those are all of our directors. And then branching off of me, you then have the 4-class board. So freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. And then you want to talk a little bit about Senate, how that works?
Yeah, so for the senators, that's definitely different. So that kind of goes to Vice President Clifford. She runs that board. All the senators work with the directors. I believe is it 2 senators or 3 right now per board?
Right now there's about 3.
There's about 3, yeah. And I think we're going to be getting in some more senators after election happens this week.
Well, we have an election tomorrow.
I saw I was getting emails
Yes.
about that.
Yeah.
So your PR is working.
It is. Well, I tried recruiting
Don't
Carissa.
forget to vote. Oh, you
I tried recruiting her.
did?
She's too busy for us.
Carissa has a lot of involvements
She
on
has
her
a lot
plate.
on her plate, yeah.
She does. Like
but
running this
let's
amazing
not give her
podcast, right?
It's okay. Imagine I was just like, guys, guess what? Guess what I'm joining with how many weeks left of senior? Well, we're not going to go there.
87 days.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
we didn't have to talk about
Wow, we didn't have to get to
Just
specifics.
finish talking about the Senate, because I'm going to start crying on the podcast.
Back to the student government. Let's circle back.
No, yeah, but the senators are great. I also work with them because I'm in the meetings Fridays, but the meetings are bi-weekly. Megan's great with them. The senators are all dedicated each to their board, and they all definitely serve like a different purpose. But
Yeah. So what Daisy just mentioned, that it's bi-weekly because we have A and B weeks.
Okay.
So on A week, the senators meet with Senate. And then on B week, senators are meeting with their boards. So whoever their directors, they're meeting with their director to come up with whatever is going on campus and, those different things. E-board meets every week. Class boards also meet bi-weekly, except the freshman board. I think the freshman board meets weekly. And then you have the judicial board, which is an animal within itself. They have their own constitution and their own things. So we have a chief justice, and she has, I believe it's constitutionally 6 justices under her.
6 justices.
And then they, deal with, impeachments and judicial hearings and making sure that we're all following the rules.
Okay.
So it's basically like the real government. Judicial makes sure that we're doing our job right, the executive executes it, and the legislative makes the laws that govern us.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And thank you for that description, because I honestly, I know of student government and I know the basics of it, but because I've never been involved in it, I have no idea the inner workings of it. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate. I was planning out that tree in my head. I was like, okay, got that, and there's this. Yeah. It seems very complex.
Maybe if
but-
I would have done this with her a few weeks back, maybe she would have run.
Oh boy. It's like, oh, well, and here we are. So within, the weekly meetings with different boards, what would you say a week in the life of a member of student government looks like? And I know that changes because we know how busy you are. Mr. Executive President of Student Government is running around like a little loony bird, but also at the same time, it feels very organized on my end, because
I would say
you should see his calendar. His calendar is...
Yeah.
is a calendar.
Yeah. Well, Carissa and I work on a lot of things together where we have classes together and we have all this stuff. So when we have to meet to do work, she's like, well, when do you have time? And I just say, here's a screenshot on my calendar. If you find a hole, you put yourself in
He's
there.
double booked in
And
every
we
single
do.
area.
So yeah, I mean, I think that the responsibilities are so different for everyone. I mean, Dade, you could talk about her responsibilities, and if a senator were here, they'd give you different responsibilities, and if a justice were here, they'd give you different responsibilities.
I think it differs for everybody. Not everybody can say that, not necessarily that they work the same, but it's just like, it's different hours for everybody depending on your responsibilities.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, obviously, we all have something to do, but it can be a lot sometimes, but at the same time, it's manageable.
Yeah. Well, because also by the Constitution, there's certain things that are laid out for us. Like, you have 5 office hours, right?
Correct.
So, whereas I have 15 by the Constitution, even though I'm in the office more like 60 hours a week, I have like a full-time job with this. And then senators only have 2, all directors and presidents have 5, and justices only have 1. So it's I would say that it's manageable if you know what you're getting yourself into. If you know you can't take on 15 hours and maybe the role of president isn't for you, and there's different things that you need to take into consideration when you're doing all that planning going into an election. But I'm definitely booked and busy. Before this today, I was at West Campus since 8 this morning. Came back at around 12:30, scarfed down, later than 12:30, scarfed down my lunch, and then ran over here to be here. And I was meeting with University Advancement. So I think that, and it sort of ties into this, is because we're, in a sense, a new organization with different things. It's the thing I'm trying to do, and the reason why I'm booked and busy is I'm trying to leave this structure for the future, so that when I'm gone, it's not just, now the next president has to start all over again. It's now relationships that whoever gets elected next, I could say, well, we're spending a week together and I'm taking around to everyone that I have a relationship with on campus. Yeah. And whether it's a 5-minute conversation or, you want to sit down with one of the vice presidents for an hour and say, okay, this is my plan. How could you help me? We have that set up. So I think that's why this year a lot more people feel a little bit more stressed than I think you would in a typical years, because we're building from the ground up. And we need these things to be solidified for the future of student government. And, I don't know if you would agree or disagree with that.
No, I agree. Definitely agree. I think this year has definitely been different. We're all adjusting to kind of like our new responsibilities and like who's doing this, who's running that. Definitely, Alejandro has been like probably one of the most different presidents I've worked under, and I mean that in like such a good way, seriously.
I hope so.
No, because I feel like he just pushes us so much to the point where we're like, we need to make this better, but it's such in a good way. And I've never worked with a president in student government like that. I always tell him, I'm like, he is one of the best.
On the show.
No, he is one of the best, truly. And I tell him this like all the time, like during our one-on-ones. I'm like, you've truly made me feel like a real member of student government. You always say that we all matter in student government. We're one big family. And he just, like, all the work that he puts in, like, nobody has any idea of how much he cares for this organization. And he truly has made this organization like what it is. And I don't know what's going to happen next year when,
we had this conversation.
I'm actually tearing
I was
right
like,
now.
I was like, what is going to happen when you leave? Like, because the last time we were in here doing another podcast, if you want to look it up, it's the Rose Political Podcast. Plug in that one for you guys too. Cute little podcast over there. He's like, I have to run to this. I'm like, what's going to happen? Like, when you graduate, like, where are all these meetings going to go? Like, people are going to be like, wait, I need to call Alejandro. Wait,
he's gone. Well,
what do I do
with the hope of it too is that because of this restructure, it's like Daisy said, I mean, it's so much adjusting, getting used to. I mean, Daisy's been part of student government for 4 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We've had members that have been a part of student government 4 years, 3 years. And to sort of say, these are your new responsibilities and you have to take off running with it, it's kind of hard. So what I've done is I've taken, at least I think, like the brunt of it this year.
No, you have.
And I've said, like, for example, I'm the co-chair of, and it was something that we founded this year, was the Provost Student Advisory Council. And that council next year will not be the president's responsibility. It'll be the director of student relations responsibility. So I've created a lot of these different councils because I came from a public school before being here at Sacred Heart. And it's a big difference from being at a public institution that, there's a student on all these committees and all this different stuff, to then being at a private institution. So I've kind of tried bringing that into the life here. And, you know, it's difficult. I mean, I can't imagine any normal person having the schedule that I have. I mean, it's not normal. It's not okay.
It's not okay.
I personally couldn't do it. Listen,
really
5 hours is enough for me.
It really isn't. And, you know, I'm hoping that then whoever comes into the roles next year, I mean, we all have to create like a little like, oh, this is sort of what the role job description is. Poor whoever takes my role, because they're going to be getting a thick packet. But then I'll be including things for other people saying, you know, now provost council is your responsibility, or the textbook reserve pilot is now the responsibility of another director. So it's all these things that I've, you know, started or have taken under that, you know, a normal person can't, you know, so anyone that has any other involvement on campus that's not just this can't do, because then you'd be locked up in a loony bin. So the wealth will be spread, and you know, I think that from here, hopefully, student government is successful. Hopefully, my kids come to Sacred Heart and they're like, I'm running for president. So yeah, that would make me
That would be
happy.
awesome.
That
Imagine.
would be awesome.
Imagine.
Right?
It's a legacy.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
They're a legacy.
baby.
I mean, that kind of raises a good point, though, because I feel like everything on Sacred Heart's campus, it's really what you make of it. See, for you, you've decided that Sacred Heart student government is going to be like your involvement. So you put in the extra hours, you decide to do more. But then there's other people who, like, you know, Daisy said she has 5 hours a week. And she'll come in and still do what she needs to do, but you're still involved in other things that, you know, allow you to be expanded into other parts of student life. So it's not like you have to just do this, or like, I don't know, sometimes when people hear government, they're like, oh man, like how much am I going to have to like put my time in? Like how much is it going to take up? But it's really like, depends on where you are, and you can run for certain things.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I think there's also a misconception, because I get a lot of emails about this, is that people think that government means political.
Right.
So people ask me when it comes to elections, oh, do I have to run as a Republican or a Democrat? And I'm like, no.
It has nothing to do with that,
It has nothing to do with
actually.
politics. So people have already that misconception that it's student government, oh, we're running like a mock country or whatever. Because people ask me this question, I'm like, no, that's more of a Model UN thing, or that's more of a this club thing, that's more, you know, which is interesting when students have that perspective that, you know, they're like, oh, I want to get involved with the political process, student government. I'm like, wrong political process. So I have found that interesting, but you know, that's a misconception. There's a lot of misconceptions. It's, you know, people think that you slave away. And you know, again, it really depends the role. You know, again, senators, it's only 2 office hours plus your weekly meeting.
Right.
So it all
It's
really
possible
depends.
though. Like no, like you said, like I only do 5 hours, but I still find time to do other stuff. I'm in a sorority on campus. I'm involved in other clubs. So it's just really depends who you are as a person and how much you can manage at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And how much sleep you need to function.
That's
that
a big
too.
one.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm the type of person that needs like at least 7, or I'm really cranky. So I mean, this is
7?
I know he's
5
like
That's how much I get in a week.
I seriously don't know how you function.
you're gonna have so
Please.
much sleep when you graduate. I feel like you're not gonna know what to do with yourself.
Well, my mom tells me, she goes, and we were actually talking about this earlier today as I was driving from West Campus to come eat scarf lunch and come here. And she goes, what happens if you, because of course she's like the little now sad bird. I'm like, what if you don't get into grad school? And I'm like, we're not talking about this. And she's like, what are you gonna do? Like, what, you know, a 9-to-5 job, and then what else? And I'm like, what do you mean, and then what else? And she's like, you're busy from like 8 a.m. until like, you know, by the time the sun's rising. What are you gonna do? Like, that's a great question. She goes, I give it a year before you go like complete crazy and like you have to figure out your whole life entirely.
You would go crazy.
So
It's
yeah.
okay. You have what, 87 days?
Yes, 87 days.
Now that we have the exact number.
I'm gonna hold you to that number. I'm gonna go to Reds tonight
It
and
is.
see.
I was
what
at
it
Reds
is.
last night and it's at 88, so today's 87.
I saw Daisy at Reds last night.
She told
I
me.
told
She
her.
told me on the way.
We were
here.
so excited for today. But yeah, I mean, student government like is one of those big involvements that like you have a lot of responsibility, but like it also helps with your time management. So like at the end of the day,
absolutely.
great organization if you want to practice your leadership skills, your responsibility, you know, divvying up your time, all that jazz.
Yeah.
I know Daisy had said it when she mentioned, like when she introduced herself before, she's been, you know, she ran your freshman year?
Yes, freshman year.
So how has, and of course the organization has changed so much since you've been in it. What, you know, were you involved in student government like in high school? Like what made you want to get involved?
So in high school, yes, it wasn't called student government. It was actually called MOST. I forget what it stands for, but it was our form of student government. I didn't have any type of like leadership role, but I definitely loved being involved with it in high school. So then when I came here to Sacred Heart, obviously they had student government. I was super excited. Freshman year was insane because just like the role and like just like the whole like election campaign was totally different than it is now. So for me, freshman year, it was actually like you had to fill out a packet, why you wanted to run, what were you involved with on campus so far, and then I believe you needed 200 signatures. So that if you got those signatures, then you would be eligible to run, and then after that, it was like an entire voting process. But that was a lot.
Still the system.
That was a lot. For your position, I believe it was about 500 signatures, actually.
I would have gotten 500 signatures.
Yeah. Actually, I got 200 signatures in the span of 2 days, so it wasn't that hard. Okay. However, as a freshman, you have to understand it's not the easiest going to different dorms and knocking on people's door and being like, "Hi, my name's Daisy. I'm running for secretary. This is why I want to run. Do you want to sign in support of me?" There were some people that were like, "Sorry, I'm busy right now." And I was like, okay. I was like, that's okay.
I tell people, sign my damn paper. I gotta go to the next room.
I was like, don't worry about it. It's mine. And then there were some people that were like, oh my God. They were like, that's so cute. I love that. They're like, let me sign. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. So it was really scary. I went to 𝚒𝚑, Murren, and Roncalli, got all my signatures, but...
Berg wasn't built then.
It was, but I couldn't get in there. I got into Ronc and I got into 𝚒𝚑 and Murren because I lived at Murren. But no, that's what I'm saying. Especially just as a freshman, that's kind of scary to do that. But that's how it was. You needed signatures. If you didn't get the signatures, you couldn't run, unfortunately.
That's how it was at Ramapo too. Yeah.
I like vaguely remember people would come. When you said that unlocked a memory that I forgot that I had. Like people came up to me and like asked me for signatures, and I was like, okay, sure, I don't see why not. Like, go for it.
Yeah.
And when did that change? Because I transferred in last year. And
you transferred your junior year, right? Yeah. Yeah. I think we also had to do that sophomore year, and then after our sophomore year, I think that's when it changed. And I don't remember how it was junior year. Junior year was just like you had to send in a video, right, or something.
Well, and this was why mine was a little funky, is because there was no elections in September, right? So there was an open position, a vacant position on the junior class board. And I was like, well, that's going to be my position. And I went through sort of an interview process with the president and with Liv. And I did that, and that was basically it. She's like, okay, you got the job. And so it was not, I didn't really have an election per se. It was more of a internal thing of, okay, this guy looks like he could do the job. And,
nice. Love that.
So, yeah.
No, yeah. So, okay, now that you said that, I remember now. So I think going the end of sophomore year, I was secretary for class board, so I wasn't the executive secretary. After that, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go for the executive board. So going into junior year, it was an interview process, at least for my position only. I think it was you had to interview with the executive president, and then it was up to them who it was. And I think I was up against one other girl. But.
Yeah. Well, I think, too, a big change from our constitution from last year to this year was that all roles were appointed. So all those directors this year actually have to run.
Oh, okay.
Versus last year, they were all, the president was elected and they built their cabinet. Mm-hmm. So, that was sort of the case, I guess, with you as well.
Yes.
This year, I guess, the only role that's appointed is Daisy. So I basically handplucked Daisy, the outgoing president, Gabby Dos Santos. I sat down with her, had a one-on-one. She gave me all the files, shared everything online with me. And I asked her, I said, secretary, what do I have? I'm like so torn. There's already a few people that are coming up to me that they want the job. What do I do? And she goes, the biggest mistake you will make is letting Daisy go. She goes, if you let Daisy go, the organization crumbles. And I was like, whoa, what do you mean the organization crumbles? I said, that scared the shit out of me. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, she takes impeccable minutes. And I doubted. Show me the minutes. I looked through the minutes. I called her and I said, you're hired. I didn't interview anyone else. I called her to the office and I said, you're hired. I didn't even interview her, just based on her minutes. Impeccable. And to this day, because each board now is required to do minutes. And they're like, my person doesn't do minutes like Daisy does. And I'm like, no one does minutes like Daisy does. That's why Daisy has her job.
This is why Daisy is where she is, clearly.
This is why she's the executive secretary. Because every board doesn't have a secretary. They just, they pass it off to a member, So it's the director and then the senators pick in between themselves. who's going to be taking the minutes because the chair of the meeting can't take the minutes. And then that was a concern brought up to me in the very beginning. They're like, oh my God, these don't look like Daisy. And I'm like, oh, well, sucks to be you. I'm like, I'm not passing Daisy
Everyone
out.
has their own way. It's okay.
Everyone has their
leave
strengths,
Daisy
yes.
for executive and for the Senate.
Okay. All right. Fair. And you also just mentioned, I knew this beforehand, but for our viewers, you transferred in
I did.
halfway through.
Yes.
So, how would you compare the experiences that you've had like here versus there, like just on like a logistical standpoint? Like how does the two boards, or like how do they look?
Completely
in comparison?
different. Very different. So, I mean, structural wise, I guess sort of similar.
Okay.
It's the senators, and it was a thing that we had in our previous system. You had, with the old constitution, we had links.
Okay.
So each senator had a department on campus. So public safety, campus ops, the library, whatever it was. And back at Ramapo, it was the same thing. So I was we called them liaison. So I was the liaison to dining services. So I worked everything dining services. And we had secretaries instead of directors or vice presidents. They were called secretaries. And then the interesting part is that here it's mandated for senators to be on a board, whereas at Ramapo it was you could choose. And you could choose more than one if it pleases you. Whereas here, it's, this is your board, you're married to it, you do your thing. So that was like an interesting aspect. We also had two really interesting roles in the student government at Ramapo, which I kind of wish we had here. One was a student trustee, and the other one was the student governor. So the student trustee actually sat on the board of trustees and was a voting member. So they were actually impacting everything that happened at the university. Professor, tenure, everything. Every little thing that could be affected and that got voted on by the board, the student trustee did. And then the student governor they had the board of governors, which was in charge of the foundation, so everything money-wise. So if university advancement had a board of alumni and these people, the student would serve on there. So I'd say those would be the main differences. Not too many there, a position here and there, like the president had a chief of staff and little things like that, but not many like glaring differences.
Okay. Yeah, because I feel like it does depend on the school. Like you said, like we're a private school versus a public school.
Yeah.
So like that in itself changes. But yeah, it's just sometimes it's interesting.
And then school size,
yes, that too.
Commuter or resident, every little thing that's different about a school impacts its student government, because then the student government has to function a little bit differently.
Right.
Definitely, yeah. And I feel like just within the 4 years, and you can attest this too, because we were such like a little like, oh my God, where is that? I've never heard of that. Where in Fairfield? How far? And now it's like, oh, I know that school. I've seen it on TV with all this stuff.
The billboards.
Like, oh, okay.
They own a property next to my house.
Yeah, I'm like, oh. But yeah, no, definitely. Going more into student government, I know that student government does a lot of like events and programs, whether it be through their class board. I don't know, does executive board put on anything?
Not really, no.
Okay, so... I mean...
The directors do.
Okay.
Yes.
I know Daisy's had, her experience with the 4 years. What do you think, like, that you've worked on so far? Do you have, like, a favorite, like, event or program that student government puts on, or one that you've kind of helped with?
So I definitely have to say my favorite. It's one that existed since I was a freshman in student government, and then we kind of did it this year, but this year it was called the retreat. At first it was known as the leadership seminar. That one is probably the most special to me just because it was super familiar. And then it was last year when I worked with former president Gabby, where she was like, do you want to take this event on and work with 2 other members on the exec board? And I was like, absolutely. It was probably the best event. Not only did it make us closer as an executive board, but it gave us communication skills, team bonding, how to work, like by others. And it definitely just gave us like different skill sets that we hadn't learned in the past. We did like time management. It was something, that we really hadn't done. And it was my first opportunity to kind of take on this event because as secretary, I didn't really get to do that. We just leave it up, like, as he said, to like the directors and stuff like that. But that probably had to be my favorite.
Yeah. For me, and this is going to sound so cheesy, but this is what I tell people when I get asked that, when, administrators ask me, what's your favorite part of student government? It's waking up every day and coming to school, even if it's sometimes before the sun is rising, or sometimes I'm still here when the sun is rising. But it's waking up and it's waking up and coming to school and thinking, I'm making an impact today. I'm meeting with, Bill, Steve, and Joe, and in that meeting, X, Y, and Z is going to get accomplished. So there's not one specific memory, but it's, every day getting up, getting busy for the students, and doing, our job as the advocate piece.
That was sweet. I love that.
That was, just so cute. Put that in your what is it called? Can't think of the word.
Put that in the agenda.
Oh,
I love that you said that.
Well, that's why I say
Review.
live, laugh, love.
This is,
Yes, that is your thing.
So I can't say that whole thing. Imagine I would be wasting all these people's time. So live, laugh, love. I'm living it up. I'm in the morning. I'm laughing, sometimes crying, and I'm loving.
Are you crying
Wow.
tears of joy?
It depends the day.
Depends on what's going on.
A little bit before it was tears of joy. Earlier today, I can't tell you it was tears of joy.
It could turn into joy later. Maybe.
It could turn into joy.
Maybe.
It could.
Who knows?
It could.
You never know. So I guess an additional question from this has been, what has been kind of your favorite part of being involved in student government, whether it be coming in a little bit later in your college career, having it for your entire college career. That could be like friendships or like you said, leadership skills you had learned during your program. Is there anything that you can like recall, or like say you're talking to somebody that hasn't gone to Sacred Heart and they're like, oh, you did student government. Like, what was your favorite memory that you can like recall from being in student government?
I would honestly say like the connections and the people.
Yeah.
I've never met such genuine people at Sacred Heart, like, that are in student government, and just seeing how much like we've all grown since freshman year to now. And it's just crazy how much work we've put into this. And like, I remember like coming in and being so shy and like not talking to anybody. And like everybody was like, does this girl even talk? And I'm like, yeah, I talk, but
and now I can't get her to shut up.
No, yeah. Now I'm like, no, yeah, it's a problem now. But no, I think like the connections, even too with like the faculty and staff, because we are in constant communication with them. We have to get things approved and have to get their input on certain events that we put on. But I think just like honestly, yeah, like you said, the friendships are like, I'm gonna miss these people so much because they, they're always here listening to us. We're working with them constantly. That's why I love student government, honestly. I've never ever had any issues with anyone on student government. I think everyone works extremely well with each other. We're super respectful of one another. And, we're always like hyping each other up and like giving each other like different ideas. So honestly, for me, that was what made it.
I would have to agree. It's the people. I mean, it's just like any organization that you're a part of, is that, there's hard work that needs to be put in, no matter what you're doing, but it's the people that make the difference. You could be putting in hard work and it could be miserable. You could be putting in hard work and, have a laugh here and there. I would say my favorite is office hours, even though I don't get to spend much time in the office. I'm running around to meetings, but typically it's when I have lunch. I take my little 63's box, I go sit at my desk, hidden in the back corner, and I just love hearing the conversations people have. And sometimes people don't even know that I'm back there. And I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. And people are like, what are you doing back there? And I'm like, I'm at my desk. So I think those would be the experiences, is that, being in the office, bouncing ideas off of each other, saying, I had this idea, what are your thoughts? Or asking the veteran members, because I'm a new person, this is an idea of mine. Is this something that would fly? Is this something that makes sense? Is this something that you guys have tried doing in the past? So a lot of that, and that's why I'm so happy to have a lot of these senior members on student governments, because they have the institutional knowledge. You have Daisy, and you have Sam, and you have Ryan. I don't know, who else am I missing?
Bella,
Liv, all these people that have been in student government, either for 2 to 4 years, that have a little bit more knowledge than I do and a little bit more of the institutional background, that I'm able to bounce ideas off of. I mean, you could ask Daisy. The other day I called her at 11 something at night, and we didn't get off the phone until 1 something, and it was the only reason I hung up on her is because she had Senate the next morning, and I'm like, Daisy, don't you have Senate tomorrow morning? And she's like, or I guess this morning. She goes, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to let you go because you need to sleep before you
go to bed.
Before you have to be at Martyrian taking minutes. So it's things like that, is to have those people and the networking and the connections. And like Daisy said, not only in student government, but outside of student government. Like, I get to meet you, and we've collabed on all these different projects. And, Susan Lukers from the library, and everyone in student life, and people in the provost's office, and people in mission integration. I mean, so many departments on this campus, and I could just sit here and list all of them, of at least one connection that I made that I'm like, boom, we've locked. And now this is something that student government could, reach out to if we have an issue and we need help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think also, for those wanting to join student government, they definitely need to take into consideration that it's not like a thing where you can just come in and then do your work and not talk and leave. No, if you want to join student government, you're joining a family. This is a community. You really have to be here and just get to know each other. Obviously we have our responsibilities, but we're also here to create these relationships that, is going to make our work just, really great and be able to put it out there.
And something that you mentioned before, Chris, I think that it's all what you put into it and it's all what you make out of it. And that's a motto that I've said since, the end of middle school. It doesn't matter where you go, it's what you make out of it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if you go to an Ivy League school or you go to Sacred Heart or you start off at a community college. It's if you're going to work your tail off to accomplish your dreams and accomplish what you want, then those dreams will be successful and things will be successful. If you don't, it doesn't matter if you go to Harvard. It's you're going to be at the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah, because honestly, people, especially here, there's so much to get involved in. Hence this podcast. But the people that I talk to that maybe haven't expanded or gotten themselves into things, they're like, I'm so bored. I'm like, okay, but what have you started to look into? What are your interests? What do you want to do? And I feel like I'm going to totally butcher this quote. Shout out to Isabella Costanza for this one. But there's a quote that she had shared with us through our sorority, and it was if you can't get out of something, get into it. So you're here, you're going to school here.
That.
That's good. You want to put that in the minutes?
Yes. I'm going to put that as my new quote at the top of the minutes.
But we're all here. We're doing 4 years, 2 years, however many years you are here for college. Might as well make it fun. Join something, do something with your time outside of classes. But yeah, when she said that, I was like, I'm going to keep that in my back pocket for something.
Those are the cutie hooties. If you want to join a sorority.
Hootie cuties.
Hootie cuties.
Hootie cuties. Say it right next time.
I always flip them. Oopsies, my bad.
Okay. It's okay.
The hootie cuties.
Okay.
The first time they had ever said that, this is such a tangent, but the first time they ever said that to us, during a meeting, I was like, wait, what? I was like, I love that, but where's that coming from?
Aren't you people the owls or whatever?
That's our animal mascot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cute.
Yeah, because hoo, hoo, hoo.
Oh my god. I love that.
Turn into an owl on this podcast.
Oh yeah. We're kind of coming to the close here, but just to a recap, how many students do you think are involved in student government, around?
30, 35?
Yes.
Without the winter election.
Yeah, I was going to say without it.
Because we have another 10 running right now.
Right,
yeah.
Okay. And then do you guys usually do fall elections normally and then winter elections for vacant spots, or how does that work?
So elections are in spring. So
Okay.
I stopped being president in April, at the end of April. And that's scary.
That's soon.
Don't repeat that.
Scary as hell.
Let's not.
So I think they should keep you on for the last 2 months.
No, thank you.
Daisy's I'm ready to retire.
She's I'm ready. I want to talk about the glory days. So we have them in April. Mm-hmm. Then at the middle of April.
Okay.
Then end of April, we have our dinner. So we have this nice little dinner at the golf course. Where the outgoing president does a little speech, the incoming president, we all get sworn in. We talk.
It's like a transition.
Yeah, it's a cute little thing. Get very emotional night. Then after that, boom, you're in your role. So as soon as I walked out of there, boom, president, how scary. And people were already emailing me, hi, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, please, I need time to process.
I just got here.
I don't know any questions that you may have. So,
I do remember that day, actually, because you texted me and you said, I'm so sorry that I think you texted me and you said, oh, Daisy, I'm sorry you missed this. I really wanted to, get a chance to, know you and talk to you.
Because I didn't really know Daisy. I met her through email. And boom, you're my secretary.
Okay. Sidebar. They were both in one of my classes last semester. I could have sworn you guys were best friends from the beginning. No. I swear. I was these two know each other.
A freaking month before, or something like that.
Via email.
Or not even. I think being in the Spectrum was, one of the first times I had seen you in person.
Yeah, it was it was definitely one.
That is so funny.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Crazy.
The more you know.
That's what I'm saying. You never know what happens. And this is the student government. See?
This is
what happens. This is what happens.
Yeah. So we have those elections. Then that's our promo. We're gonna make that into a video. Ryan needs to get on it. Then in the fall we have another election.
Okay.
Because obviously the freshmen aren't here and we need a freshman board.
Right.
So that election happens and we fill any vacant seats. And then people go study abroad over, for the spring semester, study abroad, or they've taken on too much or whatever. So sometimes we have resignations during the winter. And then when you come into the spring semester, then we have another election.
Okay.
What we call them winter elections, because
Right.
they're happening now when it's still chilly and cold outside. So yeah, and then hopefully by Friday, people will know whether they're elected, and all these people will be put to work next Monday.
Oh my goodness. Well, by the time that's out, those positions are going to be filled. So
Yeah, by the time this is out to you people, that's it. We have a full student government.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. No, sorry guys. Maybe next year if you wanted to join. Well, great. Yeah. I feel like that's kind of the basic information that people would need to know if they wanted to run when they came here. But do you have, to full circle moment, close it out. Do you have any advice for new students, whether it be people that are coming in as freshmen or honestly sophomore, junior, seniors, anybody that, if you come across this and you're going to be a senior, welcome. Do you have any advice for them getting involved, whether it be in student government or just getting involved on campus?
I think for me, I would say it's never too late. Seriously, I don't care if you're a senior, I don't care if you're a freshman, I don't care if you're a sophomore. It's genuinely never too late to join any organization on campus. I think if anything, it just makes you look bolder just because you're putting yourself out there, regardless of the time that you've spent here at Sacred Heart. And I think always definitely put into consideration how much you're going to put into that organization before you even join it. Because you don't want to just try something for a couple of months and being like, well, this is hard. Well, it's always going to be hard in the beginning.
Yeah.
But, just stick with it as long as you can.
The same advice I gave freshmen at Convocation this year when I gave my speech is don't be afraid to try new things. You might be coming into here and be a health science major, but don't be afraid to join the math club. Don't be afraid to join the engineering club or student government or Model UN. Try different things. That's what the college experience is here for. I mean, sure, for the parents listening, if there's any parents tuned in here, you're here to get an education. You want to get good grades. But you want all the other stuff, too. A college experience isn't complete without the activities you do, without the friends that you make, without those relationships. So really burst out of that bubble and, join different things. I never would have told you just this semester. I joined, like Daisy said, my senior year, my last semester here, I joined the stand-up club, which is a club to end, sexual assaults, violence on college campuses, specifically, working towards it to bring awareness to it. And the reason why I joined is I was in a class with the girl that was the president. She goes, I need a favor. And I'm like, a favor? I hate when people ask me that. That's like the scariest thing in the world. I'm like, stop, I can't add something else to my schedule. And this time it wasn't fact adding something to my schedule, but she says, I need a vice president. And I said, no. And she goes, no, I do. And the organization is going to be, disbanded because, CCO has strict rules.
Right.
It's going to be disbanded if we have no. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And here I am now. I'm the vice president of this other club that I had, if you would have asked me 2 months ago, I would have had no idea what the club was, what they stood for, anything like that. So don't be afraid to try new things. If you're someone that says, I would never do a fraternity or sorority, try it out. If you don't like it, then you could say bye-bye to it. If you like to do, and like you mentioned, I'm sure it'll be covered in all these podcasts. On this campus, there's something for everyone. Organization-wide, clubs and organizations, honor societies, fraternity and sorority life. If you like to volunteer, there's volunteer opportunities. If you want to get political, there's political organizations. There's everything. So there's no reason why anyone should finish their 4 years here at Sacred Heart and say, man, I really didn't get involved and I didn't really have anything to do. Mm-hmm. Because guess what? You could start your own club if you want.
You can.
And that's a process that you could do through CCO and through student government. Mm-hmm. You want to start, and I was thinking of starting this club, but I can't add any more responsibilities. A first generation college student club, because I'm a first-gen college student. Mm-hmm. And there's a student came to me with a concern saying, there's really no support for us. And I said, I'll start a club. I don't have time to start a club.
That is such a smart idea.
But wouldn't that be?
That would be really good.
So that's something I wanted to do, but I can't do it. So maybe one of the two of you want to take on this idea.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so don't be afraid to try new things. Get out there. Try something new. Try something new.
Amen.
I agree.
Amen to that.
Yes. Yes.
Circle around. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, of course.
No, thank you so much. This was so much fun. I loved it.
I
I
do
can't
this
believe
every
he
week.
cried.
Oh,
That was,
I didn't cry. I just got a little teary.
just got a little bit teary.
It didn't run down my face, so it didn't count as crying.
Okay, well, this is a great episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any additional questions about anything student government related, you can always go to the Sacred Heart website. They've got an Instagram if you want to plug that. You got an Instagram.
𝚑𝚒𝚒𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚑.
Yes.
Cool.
Or my executive president page
I'll let him
is
plug.
𝚑𝚒𝚒𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚑𝚑. Get all the latest up-to-date information there.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah, it's a great account. All right, guys. So,
And tell the people to follow your Instagram. It's a great Instagram account.
Dear Future Pioneers. If that's not how you found this podcast, then go over there, give her a follow.
There you go.
Because, it's lots of fun over there. All right. Well, thanks, guys. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for listening, and I will see you soon for another episode. I was going to say stay slay. I don't know why that just came into my head, but
I know why it came into your head.
have a great day, everybody. Bye.
Bye.